I swear, man, I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm doing this because the team and the players on the team are giving us reasons to talk about them. It's not my choice. It's not like I'm willing to. It's not like I'm saying, okay, every day I want to make a video talking about Elias Pettersson and his slump or his struggles or what he's not doing out there on the ice. It's just we see this every game now. And yesterday was no different. Yesterday we had ourselves the Canucks Home Opener. I told you guys that I would not be able to watch a good chunk of the game because I had hockey practice. Unfortunately, my hockey practice was kind of cut short because the majority of people that were actually going to go to practice ended up skipping and using their student rush discounts to go to the Canucks game last night. Now, it was a great experience for them, and having them sit in the lower bowl for $50, as I said yesterday, I was pretty envious because I can't use my discount anymore. But a lot of them were frustrated by the experience they had at the game. Not because of anything externally outside of the hockey game, nothing with the fans, nothing with the video presentation. In fact, they were all talking about how the video in the arena, the Canucks Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Batman parody that they did, that was great. Definitely no shame in that, especially for me as a comic book nerd. That video just was so fantastic to watch, and I could only imagine what it was like watching that in the arena. But a lot of my hockey practice buddies were disappointed with their experience because of the game they saw afterwards. The first Vancouver Canucks home game with fans in the stands in, 500-something days? It's been forever, and the fans were buzzing, the building was buzzing. 18,000 people over there cheering the names of guys like Petey, and Tyler Myers because of the hit he did on Duncan Keith. The experience was cool, but the product on the ice was absolutely lackluster. I had some people messaging me after the game saying, oh, Lego, we're going to make a post-game video about this Canucks and Wild game. And I was like, no. Firstly, I didn't see most of the game, but secondly, the Canucks didn't put in any effort last night, so why should I? If you want to maybe think of this video as the post-game video in spirit, then I guess you can go ahead and do that, because I do want to talk a little bit more about Elias Pettersson, I want to talk about Brock Boeser as well, and just what we learned from yesterday's game against the Minnesota Wild. Now, before we get into any of that, I will say this right here. The Minnesota Wild, according to Michael Russo, might be experiencing a problem with the virus. Here's the tweet he posted earlier today. I'm getting a sense that the Minnesota Wild are dealing with an expanded issue. The Wild canceled practice 30 minutes before they scheduled practice while at the arena they're supposed to practice in on a testing day here in Seattle, and 3 assistant coaches who are not on the trip and GM Bill Guerin have had the virus. And so, if this is true, and if this snowballs into a bigger thing, which we know it is possible, even though everybody is vaccinated, it's still possible to get the virus. You gotta think, okay, you gotta retrace the steps of the Wild, right? They were literally in Vancouver last night playing hockey, a physical contact sport. People are yelling at each other, people are body checking each other. If the vaccine is going to do what the vaccine is supposed to do, then hopefully this worry that I'm kind of bringing up in the back of my mind about the Wild playing against the Canucks yesterday is going to result in a non-issue. But for anybody who was on the Wild, hey, wishing for speedy recoveries. We want everybody to be healthy, safe, and back in the hockey world at 100%. So hopefully everybody's going to be good with that. But still, I thought it was important to bring it up because the Wild are indeed canceling their practice today. And if this does get a little bit worse, you have to start thinking about where the Wild had been before. Now, on to Elias Pettersson and Brock Boeser. You could see that Elias Pettersson last night, he had himself an assist. Really nice passing play. Hughes over to Petey on the power play. He one-times it to the goal, and Alex Chason is there to be the net front presence that he's supposed to be and pot the puck in past Cam Talbot. That was the only goal the Canucks scored until Bo Horvat's late dash in the third period, and the Vancouver Canucks ultimately lose this one 3-2. And I'll say this, though. The score 3-2 makes it seem like, oh, it's a 3-2 game, it's a tight game, it's a close game. It's one where the Vancouver Canucks had a fighting chance. And I guess you could say that. The Canucks did have some momentum at the end of the third period when down by 1, and the Canucks fought a 2-0 deficit to be within 1, where the score was 2-1 for the majority of the game. But that's just it. That's just the status of the score. That in itself does not dictate the way the Canucks played, which in this game was a really boring, slow, and somewhat wannabe methodical kind of pace. I say wannabe methodical because you could see they were trying to execute these super sophisticated methodical plays, but it just wasn't working. They just weren't getting any chances off. They just weren't getting any rushes off. This was a boring hockey game, and that was the number one complaint that I had. Out of all of my friends who went to this game, not just the people on my hockey team that went and ditched practice for the game, but all my other friends in other social circles as well. Believe it or not, even though I do my full-time job here in my bedroom, I still have friends in the area. And a lot of people went to this game, and they all had the same thing. It's boring. Elias Pettersson went out there as the guy that I think a lot of people were expecting to be the difference maker, especially since, hey, guess what? It's the home opener. Fans are in the stands, 18,000 strong, and if there's anybody that thrives off of that energy, I would probably feel it's Elias Pettersson, isn't it? But we still saw some of the same things that we had been seeing with PD, not just in the past 6-7 games, but even dating back to last year. Elias Pettersson has stopped moving, and he allows himself to be a target for other teams to just clog over to. They skate over to him while he has the puck, and instead of moving around or trying to shift his body weight or protecting the puck by spinning, he tries to feather a pass with pinpoint accuracy, or he tries to snipe it, and it just doesn't work. If players get too close to PD, they just shove him a little bit, he falls down. That unpredictable quality that PD used to have where, hey, if you approach him and he has the puck, be aware, he's gonna dangle the pants out of you. That sense of danger hasn't been there the past few games, even spanning back to last season. And I get it, I've said all the defenses in the previous video. He only played 20 games in the 2021 season. He missed out pretty much a good chunk of the summer recovering. He missed out on training camp. He missed out on all but 2 preseason games. He's played very little hockey. But he's got that contract now that pretty much says, okay, if you're going to hold out until the end of the preseason, sign at the last second possible, or not the last second possible, maybe like the last 10 seconds possible, just to change the narrative of that example right there. It's tough to justify a slow start. I get it. It is tough. And if there's anybody in this world that wants Elias Pettersson to succeed more, it's me. Because we know how good he can be. We saw this several years ago, not just in his rookie season, but also in the bubble, also in certain stretches of a few years ago. When Elias Pettersson is on, he is dynamic, he is skating to the net, he's not afraid to make suicide passes or crazy plays, but that sense of crazy is gone. He receives passes on the power play, he never shoots on the one-timer. It's because he's waiting for the perfect pass, isn't it? Well, truth be told, there are so many players in the NHL who don't need perfect passes to grip it, rip it, and score on the 1T on the power play, and Elias Pettersson, just based off the contract, just based off the hype and the status and what this player can be, I would think he's one of those guys who's just supposed to be able to make it work. That's what he's being paid to do. It's why guys like Ovechkin can just rip it and rip it and rip it into the net X% of the time, because he just makes it work. Pettersson hasn't made it work yet, and it's only been 7 games. But how long are we going to have that excuse? I mean, that's kind of a redundant question to ask because I'm talking about it anyway, aren't I? But either way, Elias Pettersson, I still do wish the best for this guy. I still do think that there's a lot more to give. It's just everything between his ears and behind his eyes, I think, is holding him back, because he's not allowing himself to go through with the killer instinct that he had seen previously. Furthermore, when talking about Brock Boeser, I didn't realize we'd spent 5 minutes talking about Petey. I wanted to talk about Boeser too. Let's just say this. If Brock Boeser's gosh darn shot doesn't go over the net on Cam Talbot in that third period, it doesn't become 3-1. It becomes tied up 2-2. Maybe Bo Horvat scores 3-2 and then the Canucks win in regulation. But for Brock Boeser, I mean, maybe we need to talk about Boeser a little bit more in depth in a future video too, but I'll just say this right here. Guys got to start hitting the net more. Guys got to be a little bit better over here too. When it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, the players who are supposed to be the best, Pettersson, Hughes, Boeser, Miller, Horvat. Hughes, hey, he's stepped up. Horvat scored a few clutch goals already. He has been really stepping it up lately. For JT Miller, even though the Lotto line has not been as good as we wanted it to be so far, Miller is still getting an oddly high amount of points. He leads the team, I believe, tied with Connor Garland. And then you have Petey and Boeser, whom we had spoken about here today, Pettersson, admittedly, in a lot more detail. But for all this stuff in the Vancouver Canucks and the Minnesota game and everything, let me know in the comments, what did you think about yesterday's performance? I loved the cinematic Marvel, DC, Tron crossover video they made, but when it comes to the product on the ice after catching up at the game, I am very, very, very disappointed to have seen that as the showcase in front of the home fans. But of course, it's one game out of 82, episode 1, season 52, and this was maybe just a game you want to forget. Talk to me in the comments, what do you think about all this stuff? Are my critiques fair? Am I being too harsh on the team? I've heard that before. A lot of people say that I've been too harsh on the team before. I hope you enjoyed this video of Rosén, and bye.